Hi everyone, it's Lesley from Hungry Healthy Crafts, and one of my favourite things to do is to have a look through my stash and find stamps that I could use to build a scene. And that's what I've done for this card. It's a retirement card for our friend Tony, who decided to retire and take a camper van all around Europe, which I think is really cool. And I wanted to create a card that was just perfect for the occasion. So the first thing that I did was I pulled out a whole load of stamp sets that I thought that I could use to create a scene. And I've chosen a few tree images. This is for the Artemio Animo stamp set. And I'm also going to be using this little cardinal from Lawn Fawn from the Joy to the Woods collection. And I'm stamping these images onto some neenah solar white cardstock. I found this little truck in the vehicle stamp set from Dimension 4th, and I thought that I could adapt it to make it look almost like a camper van, or at least it's going to be playing the role of a camper van in my card today. And so I've masked off the bits I don't need and stamped that as well. And this Craft Asylum stamp set called Home Sweet Home also has a couple of smaller trees in there. So I'm going to stamp this 2 or 3 times just to give me a variety of the different trees. So I'm going to set them to the side to dry, and in the meantime I'm going to be cutting out some rectangular panels using the Lawn Fawn largest stitch rectangle die. And I'm going to be creating lots of layers on this card, so I'm going to run that through a couple of times. And I'm also using some vellum to cut a rectangular vellum. So on one of those squares, or rectangles even, I ran it through again with the Mama Elephant landscape trio die, and I'm creating 2 little rolling hillsides at the bottom. And then I'm going to also use the cloud border to die cut the vellum. And that will create a nice subtle cloudy background in the distance. Let's hold that down with a little bit of post-it note tape and run it through the machine. Now back to the images, the stamped images. I am colouring with Copic markers today. I am by no means an expert in any shape or form, and these images are super tiny. So I'm starting off with R05 for the little red cardinal, and then I'm adding some darker shades using the R37. And it really doesn't need a lot of work. I'm going back in over the top with R05 again to blend that out. And for the little feet, I'm using Y38. For the trees, I'm going to be using a light shade, which is YG23, and I'm going right over the top of those little flowers or blossoms that's on the trees. For the darker shades, then I'm going to be using G05, and I'm simply going to be tracing over the branches in the middle, and then going back in with my lighter tone to blend that out. It's really not going to make that much difference on the card. I used exactly the same colors for all of the trees. And you can see there how I have just gone over the branches again and a little bit around the outside, and then gone back in with the lighter shade to blend it out. For the camper van, I grabbed my cool grey markers and I used C1, C3 and C5 for that, and I'm all coloured in. I wanted to add a sun to my scene, so I'm using this Sunshine die by Lawn Fawn. It's from the Spring Showers collection, and I've left it in the negative space because it makes it so easy to colour it in without having to worry about bending over all those little rays of sunshine. I'm using Y11 all over, then Y06 for the centre and to highlight some of those rays. And then I wanted actually a bit more of a warmer tone, so I used the tip-to-tip technique to add a little Y38 onto my Y06 marker to make a more concentrated warm centre. Now I have my 2 rolling hillsides. I'm going to be using some Distress ink to colour these in, And I'm actually starting with some twisted citron here for a nice light spring green colour. And then I'm going to be coming in with some mowed lawn and a very light touch of peel paint. I don't want it to be too dark, I want it to be quite uplifting, but I also want to make sure that there is some depth in there. So now I have the back one done. I'm going to do the front one, and making sure that I'm adding lots of the mowed lawn down near the bottom, because I'm actually going to be stamping in white on that, and I really want the white to pop against the green. And now for my favorite technique with the distress ink, I'm adding some water into the palm of my hand, and I'm going to just flick it using my fingers on top of the distress ink. And I love watching the way that the water droplets reactivate the ink, and it gives a really cool, like, bleached, splattered effect. I love the texture that this gives the cardstock. And now to create the background, and I want to create a lovely cloudy sky for my scene. So I'm using a mini blending tool and some tumbled glass distress ink to bring some of that blue colour along the top edge and on the left and the right edge. And I'm only really working on the top 2/3 of my card, because the rest will all be covered in the end. I've got a scratch piece of card that I've cut this scalloped edge. That's from the Mama Elephant Landscape Trio die set, and starting on the cardstock and blending upwards, you end up with this really cool cloudy sky effect. I think it looks awesome. So now, by the power of magic, the power of video, I'm going to fussy cut these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ta-da! And now the fun bit, where we get to assemble the card. So here's my background, and I'm going to cover it with some of the adhesive from my ATG gun, and I've stuck that down onto a rectangle cut using, once again, the Lawn Fawn stitch rectangle die, and I'm going to play around to see what I want the final card to look like. So the sun's going to go over here, and then my little trees, some will go in the foreground, some will go in the background, and the little camper van on the brow of the hill. And one of the reasons I chose to put the bird onto the little tree is that I had an idea to use a stamp that is from the Unity Stamp Company's Kit of the Month, and it's a stamp that says, "May a songbird serenade you every step along the way." And I thought that was really cute, and I wasn't sure where I wanted to put it, so I stamped it on some scratch paper, cut it out, and then used that to visually help me figure out where I wanted to put it. In the end, I decided to put it on the inside of the card and simply put a greeting on the outside of the card that said "Happy Retirement." So I'm going to stamp that on this bottom hill, and I'm using the Lawn Fawn Milo's ABC stamp set. So I put a piece of card underneath my acrylic block to help me line it up straight, and then use my embossing buddy to get rid of any moisture on the green panel. And I'm going to stamp that using my Versamark ink. And this is a sticky ink, so it's perfect for embossing. And I love this little stamp set. It's really skinny, so you can do really long words and not take up a lot of space, but you can spell out whatever you want. And there's loads of letters, loads of E's and everything in the stamp set, so I'm really pleased with that. So here we are, heating it up, and it really pops against that green background. So that's going to go here. And I've stuck everything else down. I'm just going to adhere this top panel with some foam adhesive and add some little tiny foam circles to the camper van and put it right here as it's driving up the hill. The last thing to do is to mount my card onto a card blank. And I also went ahead and stamped the greeting on the inside. Now, before I finished it, I thought that the sky looked a bit blank. So to create a little bit more balance, I've taken this little musical note stamp set, which is from a Lawn Fawn birthday set. and I've stamped that using some smoke ink from Simon Says Stamp, and that just gives a little bit more balance with the little songbird singing on the front, and the grading on the inside matches it. Thank you so much for joining me, and please do give me a big thumbs up if you liked the video. Sorry it's a long one today, but you can hop on over to Hungry Happy Crafts for more crafty goodness. Have a great day!